You heard the Professor X-Men. It's traveling time. I'm Anthony.
I'm Damon.
I'm David.
I'm Kirby. I'm Lilith.
I'm Dr. Kurt's dad.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Jim.
And what a great introduction that was, because I realized I forgot to tell the order and we all got it. Thank you. Welcome to issue number 152 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club podcast. Each and every week we meet here to talk about comic books. This is a great issue. We got a lot of participants. We're going to have a club discussion for the long-awaited X-Ray Robot issue number 2, as well as the giant-size X-Men tribute. And then we're going to do a bunch of weekly reviews, and that will be our issue for 152. So we are going to start off here. The last time we revisited this book was back in March, prior to the pandemic. Our club discussion for X-Ray Robot. This is a quick recap for issue number 1, since it's been basically a half a year since we all discussed it. You've got doctors Max Wilding, you got Brian Saunders, who are working in this robotic lab that are on the breakthrough, the verge of interdimensional travel, and they have this experiment that's going on. We have the character of Marnie, who is looking to join the robotic team, who actually is, unfortunately, there's a sexual assault scene from the boss, Mr. Reynolds, in which Max Wilding witnessed. And with Max as the witness, she uses that to her power, and she gains access to get promoted to the robotics team. And then Max doubles down and uses that to get more funding for their project. And we jump to the project. We see a robot standing around in the middle of all these scientists, and they're basically hooking up Max to this robot as the robot kind of plops and blips out of their science lab here, and quickly it returns, and Max Wilding kind of has this crazy experience of kind of being the eyes through this robot. And when he comes back, he witnesses some crazy stuff around him. His wife, who had just come into the room, his wife and kids, suddenly she is next to the boss. And Marnie, the co-worker, is the one that greets him with a kiss. And all of this stuff is going on. His kids are unrecognizable to him. And then they kind of blip back into what he's used to. So he kind of has that little trippy moment. He goes home. He kind of has this nightmare of seeing his kid walking through this apocalyptic blast, this kind of hellfire thing going on. We cut to another round of tests through the robot. And he kind of goes on this journey where we see him kind of melding and combining bodies with the robot. And we see the brain just kind of hovering there. We see this crazy tripped out travel going on. And he jumps back in, and he basically is there with the robot. So him and the robot are both there, and now the robot's talking to him as himself. He is basically his 277-year-old self from the future, is warning his present time self that basically all of reality is in danger, and that they must, he needs their help, his own help, to fix it. So that is issue 1 in a nutshell.
If you don't have a headache yet.
Yeah. It's going to get crazier. How was that for a little recap while I drink water?
I thought you did good.
Okay, good. So issue number 2 came out 6 months later in our time, but just seconds later in their dimension. So here we are, X-Ray Robot number 2. We see right away on the cover, we have the character of the Ultimate Nihilist. A quick overview of this issue is the future Max robot is basically talking to the present self, the whole team, and telling them basically everything you need to know about time travel. And he kind of specifically says that he has no time to explain it, because he's been traveling for probably hundreds of years, if not more, of trying to get back to this time to warn them of what's going on. So
He
for
even
a series,
addresses he I like that he even addresses that because the question is going to be raised, well, if you can travel through time, why don't you have just all the time in the world to take care of this? So he doesn't really explain, but addresses the fact that he doesn't have time, even though he has access to like all the time, that there is. He doesn't have time. There's a limited amount of time to act and to accomplish what they're doing.
yeah, and with a 4-issue limited series, it was a great way to just be like, you know what, in something in another book, this could have been explained, for several issues, but they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna throw all of the facts out at you, and you guys are just gonna have to jump into the ride. It's a very fast-paced issue of them doing the interdimensional travel and basically just kind of getting a glimpse at what we're in store for as they need to basically cure all the past timelines and realities and stop the ultimate nihilist from destroying all reality. So that is the overall idea of issue number 2. So what we're going to do here is a club discussion rather than going from panel to panel. Does anyone want to start kind of talking about maybe favorite moments or overall thoughts or questions? Anyone want to take a stab first?
I'll go.
All right, let's
All
hear it.
right. Yeah, I'm excited for this book. So I read this because Anthony is going to be in issue number 3, and I'm really excited to support my good buddy. He's been a real good person. And so this is like my first real into Mike and Laura Allred after hearing about them. And I have to say, I loved it. This was like a perfect book for me. It was colorful. It was fun. It was intelligent. It has a gripping story that has enough familiar elements of time travel that it is still recognizable what they're going for, but it hooks you in because it's a new take on it. I read both books today. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the third one, and not just because Anthony's drawn into it. And like I had read one random issue of Madman in like last Christmas, and it was fine. It was definitely good, but I didn't get the full flavor of what makes the Allreds so special and how come they stand out in the world of comics. Now I have, and I get it, and I am so excited. Like, I just had fun reading these comics, right? They're about what could be a very heavy topic, and yet we contrast that with really zany artwork and just beautiful, bright colors. And I liked it. I liked it so much. Really excited for it. Glad that we're reading this as a club discussion. And yeah, very, very high praise. If someone's on the fence about this, like, definitely give it a shot. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think that was a perfect example of kind of what you're saying, that like their art style. Michael and Laura Allred. You got Nate Picos, who is doing the lettering. And this is just like a great summary of what the Allreds in their 30-year career are basically capable of. And this is a prime example in a short amount of, 4-issue chunk, if you weren't committing to all of the different Madman series or Silver Surfer or Ecstatics or Bug, all of the different stuff. So yeah.
And, I like that you brought up that they've had a 30+ year career in comics, because I think you can see that legacy and that experience in these comics, where I'm getting elements of like 30s through 50s sci-fi, kind of before space fantasy was a big deal. And like, it almost reminds me in a way of like Hanna-Barbera cartoons in a very weird segue. And I like that they have made something fresh and modern, but it still shows their creative weight and that they know what they're doing. And you can see the delicate nature of, their writing and how they're crafting a story and their prose, but it still feels good. Like, they're still excited to be doing about this. And that makes me excited about this book. Like, I have a skilled pro working on this and they're fired up about it. So I feel like we're in really good hands as readers.
And honestly, I don't think it's going to get much better than that. So let's talk about X-Men. Oh, wait. Let's jump over to Kirby, who is a recent Allred convert that I'm not taking any responsibility financial-wise. So, Kirby, what were your thoughts on this?
This threw me off the Allreds. I'm done with them.
It's a good point to
I
jump
like
off.
how they brought the fact, all the issues that you can have with time travel, because I, of course, hate the whole time travel theory and concept, and I like that they're pointing out problems you can have with it and stuff. I did have a little issue with this just because I don't know what's happening with it and stuff, and it could be explained later on. But you had a male robot combined with a guy, and now it looks like a female. I don't know why the character's face turned more sunken in cheek, more female look to her.
I think that might just be like, you look at the cheekbones and the lips. I know the Allred's, his art has like, when you look at any of his characters, like they have very similar lips. Like every time you see him draw like Superman or Madman or even Max Wilding, you can see that, they all exist in an Allred version of every publishing. So
it has the Allred touch. But
They have all red lips.
It's not the lips. I'm talking more of the sunken cheeks and stuff. Give more of the female look to it. But
He looks like Max.
and looks like him. His
Yeah.
cheeks are outward. Hers are inward. But then it's like you design a robot. You got this big metal codpiece thing going on, shorts that have all these gaps and stuff. If I kick them once in the front of it, that's going to obstruct him from moving anymore. His legs are half the width of his arms. It's like you would think you'd want your legs to support you more than your arms. So,
why do you personally want to attack him?
and then along with the female part, you got the sunken boob shirt, the droopy boob shirt. So, but no, I love this story. I love the ongoing story and everything. But that caught me with the whole female look.
In that defense of me just throwing it out there, kind of talking about how, if you haven't seen a robot like this, maybe that's a compliment to the fact that he created a robot that we've never seen before, rather than, what you would normally think is a robot. Because he's drawn some robots in his time throughout all of the different series and stuff. So maybe it got down to the point being like, well, I have to differentiate my robot drawing, so I'm going to appeal to Kirby and make it a very feminine.
Well, I don't want him to appeal to me. If I'm going to build a robot that's going to travel somewhere where I don't know where he's going, I want him to have some protection and stuff. And he's got these nice thick legs and then these tiny little tubes going up into his groin. And that plate just is all air behind it. So it's like you would think he'd want some type of protection.
And maybe this is why Mr. Reynolds wasn't going to give them all of the money for that's why they needed the promotion and the bigger budget, and they just didn't get around to it. So that's why
I'm always negative, and
They were going to put some bigger thighs on this thing, but costs were cut. And...
Yeah.
I think they should just smack the guy harder, and then they would have gotten that money.
They originally had thicker thighs on the robot, but it felt self-conscious, and so it.
Yeah,
can you slim me down a little?
Thunder thighs, and
They needed to draw Anthony into more issues, so they had more money to draw more robot.
Yep, they ran out of ink for the pages.
And who knows? Maybe I teased this in the first issue 6 months ago. Maybe if you look hard enough, maybe I am in this issue too. Keep looking. Let's jump over. Jim, what were your thoughts on this one here?
Well, like you said, it had been so long since I read the first issue. I spent the first half of this one trying to figure out what was going on again. And then I finally, I understand what's going on. It moves fast, it's bright, it's colorful, it's good adventure. And then the time travel thing is a little bit different take. I love it's a very retro look to the robot. It is, kind of something from the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s kind of look, without being exactly like that, not duplicating, but just paying homage to that kind of robot.
Yeah, that's kind of his strong point. He's often known for his pop art style and everything, and he's a fan of the Monkees and David Bowie and stuff. So like all of that stuff is like infused into all of his different work, basically.
Oh yeah, some of those pages you definitely see that. Like the warping through the space stuff, yeah.
The robot has the Lost in Space style tube arms.
Yeah.
David and the cat, do you have anything to share your thoughts on this?
But you can tell Abby's very excited about this comic.
Well, I mentioned Abbey Road earlier, so that probably, yeah.
But throughout the first issue and this one, the style is, well, first of all, the all red style is very consistent anyways. I mean, you can definitely recognize Michael Allred's artwork, and I think Laura's touch on that too definitely kind of goes hand in hand. So yeah, there's that retro aspect to it, very trippy, and that goes throughout. There's like all these you get a lot of stuff like this where you get the spreads in there, and it's a combination of the art and the colors that are used that really gives you that kind of retro trippy feel to it. And there's a couple of scenes like that, and even in between a lot of the panels, they don't go with your standard rectangular panels that a lot of people use. A lot of them have these extras, the bendy shapes to them, or things where they're slanted and circular. So the whole design, I mean, you sure still get some of those your standard panels, but even then, again, they go with slanted lines rather than just the standard rectangular panels. So there's a lot of choices in here that really add to this whole effect that they're going for in the style of this comic. And I haven't read a lot of the all red stuff, so I don't know how typical all this is of, from one project to another. But they definitely keep that consistency. I mean, I would say they definitely have, but I would be surprised if they hadn't experimented with some sort of mind altering
psychedelics
at some point in their lives to really go through between the colors and just how everything moves and everything.
You got body parts that get cut off and can go right back on.
Yeah, and I haven't had those experiences myself, so I don't know for sure, but I would think that maybe they've done that, or maybe they just do the artwork to match what most people would think of as being some strange acid trip. Max even mentions that he's not even sure this might be some psychotic thing. He's not even sure if it's real himself. And do we even know if it's real? I mean, this whole thing could just be him having some weird psychotic episode, when he's first that robot for the very first time. Maybe that's still.
Or we'll find out in issue 3. It's Anthony sitting on his couch, and this is the whole Anthony's dream.
I do have to find my X-ray specs though, so I can fully enjoy the artwork that they include.
3D stuff. Yep.
In here.
Yeah. I busted out my Madman ones from the Madman 3D special, and I want to give a shout out here to the 3D conversion by Christian LeBlanc, who did an excellent job. So if you've got 3D glasses, definitely check that out. He's done a wonderful job.
The only thing else that I want to touch on, and it's been mentioned a couple of times already here, is that, yeah, they do have a different take on time travel. Time travel, so it's a complicated thing. And of course, as far as we know, nobody's experienced it. So nobody knows what it's really like. So it's always nice when somebody throws something different, whether it's a feasible explanation for it or not. Just the fact that they're trying to do something a little bit different, and saying no, that all these things that you think of with time travel isn't true, and this is how it really is. At least they're trying to have some different take on it and say something different about time travel that hasn't been said before.
Dr. Kurtzstad, any thoughts?
Yeah, I am a fan of time travel stuff. I've read a lot of the sci-fi with it, and so this book I thought was really interesting in that they actually combined various theories of time travel rather than, not really having a clear. I mean, they talked about the fact. First of all, it was great how they showed if you turn time travel loose, you would have a mess. If everybody started time traveling and wanted to do what they wanted to do, everything would come unglued. That's absolutely the truth. What kind of reality would you have if everybody was out trying to do different things? They pointed out some people have altruistic motives. Let's go back and alter Hitler being born or Kennedy being shot, and then you have other people who go back and try to get money, or because they know certain things about the past, capitalize on that. And you have people who go back to try to gain power or whatever. But the two time travel things they especially seem to play around with is that there are fixed points in time that can't change. So they had these points that people tried to alter, but Hitler's still a monster, no matter how much you try to kill him off. Kennedy still gets shot, no matter how much you try to stop it. These things are the fixed points in time that you can't alter. And then they also throw in, though, that every time you do this, though, you don't necessarily become a part of this new timeline. Your past self doesn't get to take advantage of it. If you split off a new timeline, you essentially disappear from that timeline as you were. And so all the people who are doing this vanish as soon as they do whatever they're planning to do. So those are, but they've combined those in interesting ways in the book. So I like the way they're playing with theories of time that have gone on before. And you mentioned at the beginning, they didn't give you what the problem was, but they do finally kind of talk about it later in the book. The robot tells them, every new dimensional reality or timeline chips away at the fabric of reality. So reality can't hold this many separate timelines at the same time. If you ever assume that multiple timeline dimensions or multiverses could exist infinitely, I can tell you, you're wrong. So what they have is the idea that what's happening is you're creating so many timelines that the very boundaries of reality are starting to collapse. And so you have to stop. And so then he talks about what we have to do is we have to thread them all back together. That's what our job is. We have to go and find the initial point where all these things started to split and pull it all back together, or everything's going to fragment apart. That's the kind of. So he does finally, in a later point in the comic, not at the beginning, because he's got to get through the portal so they can get moving, but he does give them an explanation finally. And there was one comic relief point nobody mentioned, which I thought was great, when the one guy who missed the original portal gets sucked through one, and then he's split in half, coming through two separate portals, and they're trying to put him back together. And of course, the brilliant leader of the company's solution is, let's smash everything with a pipe.
Yeah, that was Dr. Brian Saunders, who was kind of left behind. They all have to kind of jump into these different portals because they're all going to split up and try to fix everything. But yeah, Saunders was the one that was left behind. And and that eventually leads to the explosion of the lab when Saunders saves the boss's wife, because that ultimate nihilist came and grabbed the Mr. Reynolds and took him away. And branching right off of that, that's perfect segue into the last thing I was going to bring up with the portals. Since everything had to be discussed so quickly, they were trying to figure out, well, why should we believe this robot? This is crazy. This is insane. Then the robot, the future version of Max, kind of gives them all basically little nuggets of like, this is how I know you. And there was one with the other doctor, Dr. Osamu. I can tell you about the first time we met. We were at the library trying to check out the same book, which is Carter Beats the Devil, which I just happen to have right here, by the way. I don't know. That's just random. I don't know how that happened. And then talking to Marnie, he goes, Marnie, good or bad, I helped you get on the research team. And the first time I ever saw you, you were in an old, hold on here, Carmen Gia convertible. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
I'm not a car guy.
Yep.
In a convertible, which for some reason I have in my hand right here. I don't know why, but I don't know, another random piece of history there. And then singing a song, Case the Elephant, by Case the Elephant, Mess Around, which might be in my music library, but none of that's related.
Cage.
So.
Cage.
Yeah, he's got it in his music library and he doesn't even know the band name.
Cage is the elephant.
Cage the Elephant.
What did I say?
Case.
Case.
Oh, yeah.
Cage it in a case. Like a case of elephants, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Or the
So,
mystery
yeah,
case
them-
of the elephants.
He basically just like quickly gives them evidence of like, this is why you should trust me. They go into all those portals, all the lab explosion happens, and we're basically left with, what now? As, they're most likely trapped. They don't have any way to get back. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Any last thoughts on that one? All right. The last thing I will ask, because at the end of this month is issue number 3. And as Katie had mentioned, I am drawn into that issue. And I'm going to go around with the normal
Really?
opening order. Everyone,
Why
please.
didn't you ever tell us that?
I know I should have mentioned it at least once. So thank you, Katie, for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we will go around the normal intro order, and everyone just take one guess on what you think my role in there. And since I know what it is, and I don't want to like give it away by my expression, I'm going to put on this madman mask to kind of hide my expression. So, Damon, do you have a guess on how I'm drawn into issue number 3?
A guy hanging upside down by a rope in a tree.
Okay, David.
Your baby Hitler.
Kirby.
I believe you're going to be a toaster.
Yeah.
Well, at the very end, they were all sent out to find the various robots that might have started this, that you will be one of those robots.
Katie.
I think you are going to be a scientist on the research team.
Who knows? Jim.
You're going to be the janitor cleaning up the squelched off body parts from the time portals.
We'll have to wait.
Lilith says your head's going to be on a dog's body.
Well, we will all know the answer.
And I can tell by
Could
the
be on the backside too.
We will all know the answer if you pick up X-Ray Robot issue number 3 on sale October 28th. And that will conclude this discussion.
I already have mine ordered, so on computer.
And
digital copy.
if anyone needs a copy, I ordered a lot of them. So okay, so enough of me talking about that. Let's jump over to our next title, which is the Giant Size X-Men Tribute. This is the next club discussion here. And I'm going to take it over to David here, if you kind of want to lead us into what this tribute issue is.
Okay, well, I guess to start off with, and we thought about this afterwards too. They actually have a really good intro right here in the book. So I'm going to go ahead and read that and kind of break from that. So in August of 1975, that's a month before I was born, so I'm about as old as this thing. In August of 1975, a full 5 years after the X-Men comic book series stopped producing original stories, a comic book hit the stands that breathed new life into the concept that paved the way for the X-Men to become one of the most popular teams in all of comics. The book, Giant Size X-Men #1, written by Len Wein and drawn by Dave Cockrum, took the idea of mutants in a bold new direction, replacing the prep school class of youngsters with an international group of heroes brought together by the thing that makes them different, and the hatred and fear the world had for them. A truly seminal moment in the history of the X-Men, the issue introduced an entirely new team of full of characters that remain fan favorites to this day. The weather-controlling goddess Storm, the devilish charmer Nightcrawler, and of course the gruff Canadian brawler Wolverine. I feel like I've heard of that guy before. Who had debuted in Incredible Hulk less than a year earlier. Now, 45 years later, 58 of Marvel's top creators pay tribute to this book. And just branching off from there, that's the setup for this book. We got a bunch of different artists taking turns, doing an entire page. But let's break from this and talk about the importance of Giant Size X-Men number 1. Now, most of the characters in here, possibly even more so than the original X-Men characters, are really what we think of as the X-Men. Especially Wolverine, who at some point, more towards the, I'd say the 80s and then into the 90s, became a very popular character. So much that some people that were fans of Wolverine's before he became so popular were kind of like, I liked him first, you know. I know some people like that. I'm not one of them. But this was the setup for the X-Men, you know, that we have now. And just at the same time, we also have the villain of this comic book, who is a major part of the X-Men as they've been redone, which is Krakoa, the living mutant island, which is a very important part of the X-Men as the new version and everything that they're doing in the stories today, 45 years later, is really based around this mutant island. But a lot of these characters have been staples of X-Men stories since their introduction in here. And there's a few that went away. We've got John Proudstar Thunderbird, who, those who don't know, it was only an issue or 2 issues maybe later.
2, I think.
That they kill off the character. He wasn't around very long. Sunfire was gone after this mission, I believe.
He reappeared off and on throughout X-Men continuity.
As they did. Some of them were around before. Of course, Wolverine had been introduced, as they said, less than a year earlier. Banshee was introduced actually as a villain in the X-Men earlier on. Some of the other characters that are in here, Havoc and Lorna Dane, they would come and go throughout some of the original X-Men stories. But surprisingly, they chose not to bring them into the new X-Men at that point, but to include them with the replaced X-Men. But for the most part, these characters have stuck around. Even Thunderbird, while they killed off that character rather than bring him back, they chose to kind of pass the torch over to his brother, who became Warpath. So he's still around to this day. I think this Giant Size X-Men number 1 brought the X-Men back from the brink of extinction. They were still doing comics, but I think they were all reprints of older comics, which is why it specifically says in here that they hadn't had new comics in about 5 years. But this one, more so than the very first X-Men, has given us the X-Men as we all know and love them to this day. And I think it was great that they changed it up and introduced us not just to a few relatively normal looking mutants, but to give us mutants like Nightcrawler, who look completely different. And to do sort of this really, an international team, grabbing them from all these different countries rather than making the X-Men an American team. It became this world team, although they were based in America. The other thing that I always thought was interesting with the history of this is where some of these characters came from and the development of some of these characters beforehand. Nightcrawler, again, Len Wein had actually worked on Legion of Superheroes, and Nightcrawler was an unused character that he actually created for that. And he stopped working on that and came over to the X-Men, so he brought the character with him. And looks pretty much the same as how he was done. Several of these other characters were older designs that got turned into new characters and introduced to us in X-Men. But it's amazing to me that almost all of the characters used in here have become so popular, even with the growing number of X-Men throughout the years, that these characters in here are still so loved to this day.
Yeah, and what's cool about this tribute issue, catching us up to the present, seeing all of these different artist team take a page. We've seen a lot of this over the last couple of years with anniversary issues and specials and things like that, where it's like a one-page story. Marvel did it with their 80th, but this is a cool thing of everybody kind of taking turns. The last time, I'm sure it's been done a lot of times, but the last one that I know was real significant was the Superman Batman, I think number 26, and the tribute to Jeff Loeb's son Sam, in which a bunch of artists came through and finished that book, and each took a page. And you see that here, and the editor of this kind of putting this together, for the most part, a lot of it kind of bleeds into the next page pretty well. There's a couple, crazy turns where it jumps into the cartoony style or something like that, but for the most part, a lot of it kind of really is a nice flow back and forth.
Yep.
And I thought that the person that was in charge of that really did a great job of assembling this group and really kind of assigning the pages to everybody. So that's one thing I really took out of it.
Just commenting on that, I was actually concerned when I first flipped it open. I wasn't worried, having read the story before. It wasn't like I couldn't open the book and see something that was going to spoil it for me. But I gave it a quick flip through when I first got it, and just seeing such a difference in the art styles, I kind of worried that, reading through the comic, that it was going to be weird going from one style to the next, from one page to another. And I will say that for the most part, that wasn't an issue. There was a couple. The one page that I just held up was one of them.
Yeah, that was pretty jarring.
Thunderbird's were not even wearing a shirt in one, and all of a sudden he's wearing a shirt in the next one.
It went from like an ultra, like a super realistic approach to, the Saturday morning cartoon. Both great styles, but very wildly different.
Yeah.
So different that one in particular you notice, and there's a couple others where you really notice them. Stuff like this is a little bit more noticeable, but most of the styles, even though different, kind of blended together pretty well. So I will say that overall, that wasn't really a problem for me with reading this and having such different styles from one page to the next.
Yeah, there was one page I want to bring out that was my favorite, one of my favorite artists, Jen Bartel, who did all the work from penciling, inking, and coloring. She's one of those two that you can really tell her style with her very, bright neon colors and everything. But she was doing the one where Storm was starting to power up Lorna, and it was just cool, just seeing her style in there, and I was excited to just see her part of the book because she's done some Storm variant covers and things like that. So it was pretty cool just to kind of see her get to draw Storm in this pretty epic moment. So that was my favorite standout page there. Anyone else want to jump in on their thoughts for this?
Oh, go ahead, Katie.
I was just gonna say, I had fun with this. I enjoyed it. Did digitally, so it'll be interesting to see how it works in a copy. Just because I think I have a different experience seeing art panel to panel versus the page. But I like it. Like I'm not really sure how you will be really did enjoy it, especially thought the letters that put on the back from the
Yeah, she's cutting out there. I know she might still be on the X-ray robot filter, the voice filter.
He's well, now it looks like she dropped off completely.
But yeah, she was
Oh, she's
talking
back.
about how she read it digitally.
There she is.
As did I.
No
So
audio yet. So
well, I was gonna say it was I'm always excited to go back to the older X-Men stories, as most people know who are doing this show with me and or listen to this. The new X-Men pieces are just, I find, really so out of place with this. This was I think the high point of the X-Men writing, storylines, and everything. I loved in this that not only did we introduce all these new characters, but they built in a continuity with the old characters as well. We didn't just suddenly replace all these old characters or start over, as a lot of people would do with things, today in movies or in other ways. But there was this, gentle sort of connecting of the two that I thought was really great. I also loved that all of the X-Men that the professor goes and tries to get on board are reluctant at first till he mentions this is about a better world for everyone. And so they'll kind of go, all right, even though I like my life the way it is and stuff, if this will make a better world for everyone, then I'll join this thing that you're doing. And that's a much more hopeful line of writing, I think, than the present writing in X-Men, that all of us have the opportunity to make a difference and make a better world if we're willing to place ourselves in that, even if that means we have to give up some of our comfort and safety. It may be an overly simplistic storyline. Everybody says that you just like those overly simplistic storylines, but there was something brighter and more hopeful in this period in the X-Men's history. And I love to go back there and read stories from that history. In fact, this story, I could have probably told the whole story without reading this book. That's how central this story was to the movement in the X-Men comics.
Cool. Damon, you have any thoughts on this one?
I thought it was pretty good. My only experience reading X-Men was, House of X, Powers of X, and the Krakoa thing kind of threw me off because I don't remember any of that from the House of X, Powers of X. I knew it was a living island, but I never saw it, I don't think, in like this form before. I could be wrong. I don't really remember too much of that run. But I like the detail. I even like on the front, I don't know if anyone noticed it, because I know that when this came out in 75, I think comics were 25 cents or something like that. And instead of $5.99, it says 599 cents. Little things like that was kind of neat. The art I thought was great. There was just one page that really took me out, and it is, I don't remember if someone else brought it up, but where you go from that, which was really cool, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's like, whoa, what is this? Did I just turn on the Cartoon Network or something? It just, that one
It's
page,
like
really,
an Archie page popped up in the middle of the comic or something.
yeah,
Oh,
I mean, that kind of, whoa, and I flipped the page and it was back to normal. For the most part, everything kind of flowed. I didn't really notice too many differences between the art, even though I know each page is different. But for an intro into X-Men, not having read any of this older stuff, I thought it was great. I mean, it was easy to follow. Anyone can pick it up without any history or knowledge of them. And it was actually, I wish it would have been a little bit longer. I'd be curious to see where it goes from here. But yeah, it was a great read.
Yeah, I would like to see this this gimmick used for other ones. You know, it's not like every month we need a tribute book or something, but you know, just taking certain staples out of Marvel or DC Comics, you know, and just kind of representing it in this format and having, you know, modern artists kind of get a chance to work on a piece of history. Jim.
I had never read this book before, so I thought it was really interesting that way to see basically the origin of what, for the most part, I think of as the X-Men. So that was cool. A couple of things struck me, like the other people have noted, the art change, especially that one change. I think it's page 13. That is just a jarring. It actually took me out of the story where after I read it the first time, I kind of went back and looked, and it's like, yes, I see differences in the art from page to page, whereas that one basically, whoa, what's going on here? And then the other thing I wanted to ask is on the very last page of the story, is that supposed to be a 3D image? Anthony, have you looked at it with your glasses?
Oh, cause it is kind of blurry. I have my Madman 3D glasses right here, so let me take a look. Let's see here. It's kind of dark in where I'm sitting right now. Hold on. Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, actually, it is.
Even the cover looks a little bit like on mine or on where Wolverine is. Looks like it might be a little 3D.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, all of this. I mean, it all looks pretty good. It's not. You know, if it's 100% 3D, you'll see it's extremely blurry. But even on that, there, it does kind of pop a little bit. But the whole thing. I think I'm just gonna wear these for every comic I read from now on.
There you go. And then I don't
They're
know
very
if this
fashionable
was
too. So
if this was the original script or not, but I thought that last box, the last panel was funny. That what are we gonna do with 13 X-Men, whereas now there's like 1,300 of them.
It's like when the Avengers teams would get so big, you know, when they would have their meetings, that's basically everybody in the Marvel universe is on the Avengers.
Yeah, there's the West Coast Avengers, there's the Midwest Avengers, there's a Salt Lake City Avengers, there's
Great Lakes
South side of Las Vegas Avengers.
The Barton Avenue Avengers. But yeah, anybody else want to chime in with anything? But yeah, I think that will wrap it up. It was a pretty cool tribute. It was pretty awesome. Like I said, I would be down to see that in other aspects of both Marvel and DC to kind of see things represented this way. And Jordan D. White is the editor. I think he's the overall X-Men editor. So I saw him credited in there. So I think a lot of that goes to him with kind of getting that transition and really keeping that. And that goes to tribute to Len Wein and Dave Cockrum too for the original creation of this issue.
Well, and I think for newer comic book readers, it's neat to get some sense of the history of things. I mean, a lot of us have been reading comics for a really long time. So, you know, in some ways it's great for us to go back, but I think for people who haven't maybe been able to experience past comic book setups, I think it's really neat for them. They can get a sense of the history of what's been going on in comics for a long time.
Yeah, and
I'd be interested. I was saying I would be interested now to like get a copy or get a digital, even a digital copy of the original, and look at it page by page and see how the artists updated and what their take on the original was. Compare them.
Definitely. In the back, you'll see an interview with Len Wein's wife, Christine. Len had passed in 2017. So it just kind of talks about, she was talking about updating some of the themes and dialogue. Not too much. They go into detail there. Definitely check that out if you have yet to read this. But it kind of led into some interesting aspect of his passion and his career as a writer in comics, and you see that with a few other pages, and you got that with Chris Claremont there and stuff too, and a little spotlight on Dave Cockrum as well. I think the way I'm going to close out this club discussion on here is words that his wife used to say to Len. You've got your immortality. You're going to live on with your work. So I think that will do it here for the giant size X-Men tribute to Wein and Cockrum here. And that will conclude the club discussion, but stay tuned. We have weekly reviews. Okay. Save. Alrighty. Put all my props and gadgets and toys away here to set up.
How do you have a little model of the car and not know what it was called?
Well, I'm not a car guy, and I just typed it in on eBay when I read this issue on day one and bought a $5 car on eBay. So I thought I was getting a full car.
You go all in on these.
Yeah, because I'm setting up my X-ray robot tribute shelf, and so I'm trying to add all these little like trinkets and stuff to go with it. So, but yeah, the book I bought, they had the picture of the cover, and it showed up without a dust jacket, and so I messaged them and said they should probably put that in their description because I would kind of wanted that cover art to be part of the display, but it does, have the writing and stuff there. But anyways.
Now you got to go on eBay and look for a dust jacket.
Yep, just the dust. They're probably selling that separately now. So
They might be.
Okay, we are recording audio. Here we go. Welcome to the weekly review segment. We're going to go all around the internet, talk about the books that we've been reading, both new and old. I'm going to kick it off with one that I was very much anticipating. This is from Image Comics, Getting It Together. This is a series premiere. Newcomer artist Jenny D. Fine shines alongside Marvel Comics Iceman writer Cinna Grace and co-creator Omar Spahi. In the all-new modern dramedy you didn't know you needed. Sam and Jack are best friends, and Sam is dating Lauren, Jack's indie rocker sister and roommate. When Sam and Lauren open up their long-term relationship, skyrocketing tensions send social shockwaves through their friend group and the entire Bay Area. This is a very mature rated book. I should just say that right off the bat. This gives you kind of mending the idea of any kind of American sitcom like a Friends, a Big Bang Theory, a Will and Grace, mixing it with Sex and the City type content. So it is a very mature rated book. A lot of dramedy. There's some great comedy moments in here too, but it is like plain and simple. Like this could be a show, like a sitcom on HBO or something, dealing with these main characters here, dealing with the breakup and kind of our main character who is best friends with the brother of his now ex-girlfriend. And so this brother is kind of caught between both parties, basically. So in the opening, we see them kind of going back and forth on his side of the story and her side of the story. And she's in this band, and she apparently slept with this band member, and he's all upset about it. That makes sense. But there's a lot of drama going back and forth, and so many characters. And actually, when you look at the cover, it is an homage to like the Friends in opening video and the umbrellas and the dancing in the fountain and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a fun little tribute there. They got the couch and the lamp all set up. But yeah, Cinna Grace, I talked about him. He had written I don't know if this whole creative team is from or part of the creative team, but Ghosted in LA, which I talked about this past year, that I really enjoyed. And he's very good writing a lot of characters and the drama between the relationships. It's through and through a relationship book. It has no supernatural elements like that other one. There's no monsters or demons or superheroes. It is simply Like this is simply something that could be like a Sex in the City type of show on a streaming service type network. But yeah, this I had a lot of anticipation for this, and it did not disappoint. He's just great at writing all of these characters and emotions, and he pretty much is starting to sell me on when I see Cinna Grace's name on a future title. My attention's going to be drawn there basically from this as well as Ghosted in LA. So, and now I want to go back and read the Iceman miniseries that I never actually read. So yeah, getting it together. If you like any of those things I said, this is a great drama, romance, comedy book for you. Let's jump over to Damon for the next one.
Let's not, because I don't have any this week.
Oh, that's right, because the other one was Batman 3 Jokers #2, which, by the way, will be our next week club discussion. So thank you for that plug, Damon. And then, David, you don't have one, correct? Is he not even on the screen?
He's not on the screen.
The show is falling
He's
apart.
hiding.
Kirby, save us, Kirby.
She's going crazy. She's seen Jim putting makeup on. She's all excited, thinking he's flirting with her. I'm like, it's not makeup. It had to be like chapstick or something. But she just wants to tug on his chin and nibble his ears. It's just driving me crazy.
Hey, I'm single.
And if you're just an audio listener to our podcast, this is a great plug to subscribe to us on YouTube, the Crimson Cowl Comic Club, Crimson Cowl Comics on YouTube, so you can see what all that meant. Kirby.
I picked up some Emily Lestrange, and I've seen the shirts and stuff like that and all the stuff that they have out there in a few of the comics, but this is my first introduction to reading it. Emily may be odd, but she always gets even. Meet Emily, the peculiar soul with long black hair, a wit of fire, and a posse of slightly sinister black cats. Famous for her barbed commentary and independent spirit, this rebel child in black has spawned an internet and merchandising phenomenon. She sounds a lot like you, but it's not you. You're a spirit stuck in a doll. Just deal with it. And then I got number 1, 2, and 3, hoping that somehow they would link together, but I knew they wouldn't because one's called Emily to Strangers. One's number 2, The Lost Issues, and number 3's The Revenge Issue. So I knew I wouldn't get that lucky, but Emily and the Strangers, in order to win a legendary haunted guitar, Emily is determined to create the most rockin' song the world has ever known. But can she do it solo? Emily isn't known for playing well with others, but she's going to have to rely on the help of some strangers if she's going to succeed in her musical journey to the true heart of rock and roll. These are fun stories. This one had, she's got a laboratory in her house full of all kinds of stuff, and she's got her 3 black cats that run around, and they like to chew on the electrical wires, and I can't believe they haven't gotten electrocuted. I know it's cute when they get electrocuted. I know you cannot do that to Lemmy Kilmister. Behave yourself. But the cats like to get into all her stuff, and every time she builds something, they cause some corruption in it and stuff. And she meets up, finds this contest that's going on, and if you win the contest, you get this guitar from, I forget who it is, the character that had it. But it's like a guitar with a spirit controlling it. And it's got like a Cthulhu type deal with it, an octopus guitar. But she meets up with another character that works for the studio, and he helps. Well, she loses her tape, and one of her cats takes it to the door and meows outside the door, and he opens up the door and grabs the tape and takes it in and gets it played for her, and she ends up winning the contest and stuff. And he helped her by remodifying her music a little bit. But yeah, it's a 3-part story, and of course I only got the first part for it. Then these other 2 are basically a bunch of little stories in the just thrown together into these books, whereas the the Emily and the Strangers is more of a follow through story. These are all individual stories, so you can read these separately anyway. So that wasn't too bad, but I still want to get the rest of them. But yeah, Emily is Strange. If you're looking for some goth girl type thing, you're into that. It's fun watching her and her cats get in trouble. So check those out.
Good. Dr. Kurtzstad.
Continuing our Halloween theme, we have, it's hard to see with my background here, Death to the Army of Darkness. Issues 4 and 5. For all Ash fans, this was a great read. I don't know if any of you, the rest of you got to read it, but it really is a great story. Just to give you a quick overview to get people interested, Ash is sick of being the person who has to fight all the Deadites. He wants to get rid of the Necromonicon. He goes to a professor who he hopes can give him the solution. It turns out the professor is a Deadite as well. There's a massive magical mistake, and Ash is split into a bunch of different pieces. Ashley, a woman who's his feminine side. Little Ash, one of those little imps who attacked him in the movies, is split off from him. Bones, who is an animated skeleton from the professor's office, who is Ash's fears embodied in this skeleton. Dashiell, a dog, who is Ash's intelligence and seems to have knowledge of just about everything, and his chainsaw, which takes on its own personality. And all of them are quickly drawn into a fight with the Deadites. They end up being transported to ancient Egypt, which is all a part of a Deadite plot that's going on. They have to figure out how to thwart the Deadites in their mission, all split apart with their various ways of doing things. At the end, one of them becomes especially the hero, the one you least expect, actually pulls them through at the end. And do they kill the Army of Darkness? No. Not only don't they kill the Army of Darkness, but they end up in another time period running into, well, you'll have to read it if you want to know the end.
Yeah,
but it's a great
really
read.
enjoying.
They did a great job with the character of Ash. It's just, I can't say enough about, if you're an Army of Darkness fan, don't miss it.
Yeah, I like how they split up all the characters and stuff, but I didn't know the last one was out yet, and I don't have that one yet.
Yeah, well, read it. It's a great ending to this whole, and it's really a madcap sort of ride through this one. So don't miss it.
Yeah, it's very fun one
too.
Cool. All right, we're gonna jump over to our Dresden filer, Katie.
Also, so you not see them in the books, but you and then is Chicago's own professional wizard. So by day, he's a private investigator tracking down all the supernatural baddies trying to hurt Chicago. And by night, he is a warden of the White Council of Wizards, protecting the world from greater supernatural and spooky threats at large. Now, I read 2 graphic novels. I'll talk about them together.
And it looks like we lost Katie's audio.
Yeah, I'm going to impeach Zoom. I'm so fed up with Zoom. Zoom is like the worst thing. Okay. Me complaining about Zoom. So,
Welcome to the jungle. Yeah,
yeah, that's the first one. I haven't read that one yet. I'm excited. It's kind of a prequel. So I did jump onto Comic Unlimited, and I noticed that on there, so I wanted to take advantage of that while I had the service. So in Dogman, Harry Dresden is going to a town with listens to wind, with a neighbor wizard and shaman, also goes by Joe. They are going to investigate what they believe are a group of dogmen, which are kind of like werewolves, but all the time they're transformed. And they end up running into some ghouls, and ghouls are monsters that consume human flesh for fun. And they and then in downtown, so Harry and his small carpenter team up with gentleman Johnny Marcon, who is the leader of the mob in this version of fighting a golem in not like the sewers, but like effectively a level underneath Chicago, from like when it was older and stuff. And they find a golem and a mad sorcerer, and that's pretty cool and good to see Harry working with Baron Marcon, because it's kind of cool to see two people that are very adversarial towards one another, but they get along, how that dynamic works out. So I really enjoyed it. They were both great Dresden Files stories. If you've read those books, you will not be getting any surprises from these graphic novels. They're, pretty standard, follow the flow and the pattern. The characters are the same. But if you haven't read the books, you will still actually enjoy these graphic novels. In fact, I came to the Dresden Files from the graphic novel, where I read and thought that was pretty cool. And then I started reading the books, and here we are now, so I'm reading the graphic novels again. Jim Butcher is involved with these, so he is helping to write the stories. So that's a big plus. Always good when the original creator is a part of it. And one last tidbit, the art is really good. Like, I really liked the art in all of these. It's good to see the characters drawn to life and see how they act for image. So that's my review for two Dresden Files graphic novels, Dogmen and Downtown.
Cool. Thank you. The next one, we're going to jump over to Jim, who is over in the truth department.
Yes, I have a new book from Image called The Department of Truth. Somebody else has got it as well. This was really interesting. It is, if you are interested in conspiracy theories, you want to be reading this book. So far, it has covered the shooting of JFK, flat Earth, the moon landing, a few other things, and it has not taken a stand necessarily on one way or the other, except that there's this organization trying to protect the world from or for, or maybe either way. It's kind of unclear. We run into some familiar real world characters from conspiracy theories. We run into some people that are not actual real people, but they are familiar from real world characters. They resemble real world characters. It's a story of a FBI agent who is not really a field agent. He is a instructor at the academy in Quantico, who kind of stumbles upon this flat Earth group. Well, not just, he actually goes to a flat Earth convention to see what it's all about. And the organizers are excited to have an FBI agent in their midst, and they invite him on this airplane ride, and they shock him with showing him the flat Earth. And they fly him down to Antarctica, and he looks out the window and he sees what he's surprised to see, that the Earth is really flat. And once he gets down there, things really take a turn, and he is rescued from this group by an agent of this organization she takes him back to their headquarters and then they explain to him what is really going on. And then in their introduction, they kind of sum up the story pretty much what, tells what's going on. Let's see. I believe it is. There's one panel that kind of explains it very well. They're interviewing this agent, and I had it pulled up and now I lost it.
While you do find it, I want to give a credit to Martin Simmons, who does the art, and it really reminded me of a Ben Templesmith type of art, who is known from like 30 Days a Night, 10 Grand, the Wormwood Saga, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Martin does all of the art duties on this book, and it's a different style if you're not used to it. It's just kind of real gritty and dark, and I mean, it really fits the story perfectly.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the art style, but it does absolutely fit the book. I actually, kind of a criticism from me is the lettering. I found the letter boxes very distracting. It's like a shadowing effect of the box, and they're strange polygon shapes, and then they have a duplicate of it just offset behind it, and I found it a little distracting.
Yeah, it's like if you made two word balloons and then you decided to move one of them and just like angle it at a different, and start moving it around where you just see like the jagged edges. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Yeah. But yeah, I could see how that could be a little distracting at times. It almost looks like you cut them out of like paper and you pasted them on there.
I can't find it right now, but essentially it was this organization is fighting against these conspiracy theories because the more people believe in a conspiracy theory, the more likely it is to actually come true and change the world. So if this group of rich individuals who had gone to this flight to Antarctica, and because they believed in the flat earth theory, they essentially made the flat earth appear. If they had brought back proof to the real world, it would have destroyed everything about the real globe and made the flat earth basically the norm. So, if that happens with the flat earth theory, think about what happens if all these other possible conspiracy theories that are out there, if they become true. So yeah, it was very intriguing as that way. While they're on this convention, this group of these rich old guys who believe in flat earth society, they show a film that is purportedly being the moon landing, but it's from a different angle, and all of a sudden you see behind the astronauts a man in a suit drinking a cup of coffee. And they say it comes from Kubrick's personal files. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, so this is, and then to end it off, they give you a little teaser for book 2, or the issue 2. You can see, zoom in a little bit. And then for those D&Ders, maybe, or especially Dave, you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
In the 80s, D&D was very much frowned upon in various parts of the country because it was the devil's game. And then I'm going to leave it, I'm not even going to say it, but the leader of this group is a very important part of the book, and you need to read it to find out who it is.
All right.
And then I was going to give a shout out to the variant cover artist that I got, one of my favorites, Jenny Frizen. So once I saw she had a variant, I'm like, you know what? I'll dive in with the series.
And that is an interesting character too.
And you got James Tinian the Fourth, who's basically on
Oh,
fire.
yeah. And apparently he's got his own studio called Tiny Onion. Within Image, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, he's on fire, writing Batman over there, but then he just has all of these, wind and something is killing the children. Now he's got this. He's probably got another 4 I don't know about. So yeah, he's a busy dude over there.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to jump over to my next title, which is a Firefly Blue Sun Rising, issue number 0. Sheriff Mal Reynolds has a new partner, a law enforcing robot from the Blue Sun Corporation. If he wants to keep his job and protect his sector, he'll have to play by Blue Sun's rulebook. This is like sort of a spin-off of the main Firefly. Like there are other issues of Blue Sun Rising on the horizon, and but it exists in the current storyline as well. So I don't know if the main book is just taking a small hiatus while they tell this, or they're both happening at the same time. But Blue Sun Rising, launching off the idea that Malcolm Reynolds has been now the sheriff, but while he's been the sheriff, he's also been doing things to help out Kaylee and Jane, and another one that Kaylee's like boyfriend or something. I can't remember. He's a newer character in the continuity of the Firefly comics right now. They have their own gang going on, so Mal's kind of giving them tips and here and there. Mal, we saw in the normal book, has also been going up against another character, a rival character. If you haven't read the issues yet, I'm not going to get into details of that one. But this is spinning out of the idea that of concentrating of him being the sheriff and working with Boss Moon and finding out that these Blue Sun robots are basically in training, and he has to kind of train them and work with them. There's a whole big arc dealing with how this issue ends up that I'm not going to go into, but in the Firefly universe, we don't deal a lot with robots and laser guns. Like even in the original series, there was one guy that had a laser gun, and that was like a big deal. So like robots hasn't really been something that's been dealt with, unless I'm forgetting something. Dr. Kurtzstad, I know you've been reading Firefly comics. Did you read this as well?
No, I haven't read that yet. I just put it on my notes to get out and get that one.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if these are happening with the same, if they just took like, all right, we have this story arc and this one, we just have to tell them both at the same time. But because I think I pre-ordered another Blue Sun Rising issue. But yeah, robots. Does your memory serve if they've dealt with any kind of robots?
It's Firefly? Interesting in the frontier planets where Firefly primarily takes place, that technology is not really present. But back in the main part of is it the Republic or the Empire? They do have robots and laser guns and all that sort of thing there. So there's within the Firefly universe, there's this radical difference of technology between the frontier and the government center where all the technology is. And so it would be odd for this technology now to be sent out into the frontier planets to handle things.
And the Alliance, is that the word you were searching
Alliance,
for?
yeah, the Alliance is there's technology there, but in the frontier it's still 6 shooters and
yeah, and I'm just looking for a good page here to kind of show it off, but it's pretty interesting because you're seeing it's the early developments of what's going on here, and much like what's happening in the main Firefly book, you've got it gives you like a Terminator type vibe, or any kind of sci-fi robot, if you will. It's right now they're just at like creepy development stages, but something happens in this issue that further advances the plot of their overall mission and how they want to develop these Blue Sun robot, policing. And there's some humor where they just know a rule book, so they go into a situation and Mal kind of has to tone them down. Like there's a girl, I think there's like a little kid that was like stealing, just petty theft, like I don't remember the object. Let's say it was a candy bar or something, something like that, stealing a muffin or something like that. And the robots are ready to destroy because, like, well, this is under violation and so and so. And Mal's got to calm down the situation, being like, all right, we don't need to go out of hand here. But yeah, this is definitely a very fun read. And if you are reading the main series, definitely put this on your list because it's part of the ongoing story. So
Storyline. Yeah.
So, yep, don't know how long it'll last. It is a little heavier book. Issue number 0, prices are on the back, and $7.99, but it is a longer, doesn't seem as long as it maybe should be, but it is an oversized issue. I'll say that. So, all right, then we will jump over to.
I'm afraid I have to slip off and go make dinner. So,
take care, everyone. Making dinner for how many we have here? 6?
I'm afraid just for the 3 here.
Yeah, he's gonna.
But it has been fun to be with you all again.
It was great to see you. Thank you.
All right,
Lilith,
take care.
Lilith wants to come over and play hide and shriek in your cemetery.
Okay. Take care.
See you later. So yeah, that will be it for my issue, and looks like we'll have one more to talk about, a graphic novel from Kirby.
Tesla and Hyde, Scary Fails, graphic novel. This is volume 1. It's from Big City Comic Studios. Since childhood, you have been lied to. The stories you were read were just part of a larger conspiracy to protect the true identities and reputations of some truly evil people. Now immortal beings Edward Hyde and Nikola Tesla hunt the worst of these scary fails. What happens in Vegas sometimes ends in dismemberment, or worse. I know it sounds like a nighttime story, huh? This was fun. Got all kinds of characters from all your different types of stories from your childhood and stuff. You got Goldilocks, you got the 7 Dwarfs, Santa Claus, Rumpelstiltskin. There's just so many different characters in here. And apparently, when the characters originally passed away, they get sent to hell. And then hell releases them. And it's hard to tell from this if they're immortals or not. It's like some stuff I read online says they're immortals, but yet they can die, so they're not immortal. And there's not some special way you can kill them and stuff, but you apparently don't age. You just stay a certain age for the rest of it until you do pass away. It's very unique how they go at these characters. I picked this up at the last Purge sale, and Shelly grabbed it, and it's not something I would have really grabbed because I'm not into the whole Jekyll and Hyde stories and all those. The only time I've liked them so far was that they have a Fairy Tales Xbox game that came out a few years back, and I really liked the way they played with the characters on that, and they kind of did that with the characters in here with like the big bad wolf and stuff like that. You get Goldilocks and Robin of Locksley. You find out they're brother and sister, Goldie Locksley. And it's just, you've met Robin of Locksley before. What was he like? He kind of stole your heart. Yeah. You met Nikola Tesla too. He was kind of electrifying for you. But yeah, it's just watching them beat up the different characters. You got different fails that come out. That basically the main henchman is Hyde, and then every now and then he has to release Jekyll and just let him go crazy on everybody. But he's got to deal with Jekyll, where as long as he kills the fails that Jekyll wants him to kill, Hyde can control Jekyll. But if he doesn't, then Jekyll can come out and stuff. There's a very unique twist in here with Tesla and Hyde and Jekyll all together. Just a strange little storyline that they throw in here. And I like how Tesla, as he gets re-brought back and stuff, and he's used to his old timeline, basically starts off, he's like, screw this, I can't deal with this future realm, and I'm just going to kill myself. So he tries to jump off a 40-story building, and some things happen to prevent that and stuff. But then he realizes, I'm here, check it out. He learns about the internet and all that stuff. Then with his brain, he can just develop tons of things in his own time, and now he's got access to our time. And the things he makes, he just has some of the neatest little toys, and he just kills off people in different little ways, makes himself a little smartwatch, and these guys are standing in his apartment, and he just hits his watch, and they all get electrocuted and die. He basically copperizes the whole floor, and his smartwatch controls it, and he can control the electricity through it. It's fun. It's a very unique take on all these different types of characters. You get, like, I don't know if I mentioned, like, you got Santa Claus in here. So there's just so many different Red Queens in here, just from so many different fables and stuff like that, and the storylines from our childhood. But yeah, it's very fun. I did not expect what I got out of this. So
one of my favorite fairy tales from my childhood, I'm going to ask if it's included in there. You had mentioned Santa Claus. What about Chainsaw Reindeer? That's one of my favorites.
No, we didn't get to see the reindeer yet, but this is volume 1. So
okay,
who knows what could happen in the future.
Excellent. All right. Well, that is going to be our show. We had some great club discussions. We have some more picks on the horizon for the future episodes. This could or may not change, but it looks like we may do the Batman, the Three Jokers issue number 2 for next week on the horizon, whether or not we do it next week or coming up. We got Wonder Woman 84, Museum Mayhem, the one-shot tie-in with the Wonder Woman 84 movie. We'll also have brand new issues of Batman, The Adventures Continue, issue number 5, which I think it just got upgraded to an ongoing. Am I mistaken when I say that?
I haven't heard nothing.
Yeah, because I think I saw that on my pre-ordering. But I think
I don't know that it got upgraded to ongoing, but at least to issue 7.
To more. So yeah, I guess it'll be up to the club to see who will continue on, because I think it was going to be like 5 or 6 to begin with, but so I'm not sure. What's that?
Keep torturing us.
Yeah. We'll have new issues of Ink Blot. That was one that a couple of us had, so that is going to be out as well. So look for all of those. And I forget the exact title, but I think it was Robot X-Ray 3. Is that it was something
X-rated robot
CAT scan android.
I think that was it. Yes. Issue number 3 of that is going to be on the horizon, and you might want to buy that to see if one of us is going to be drawn in there. So those are all the things that we're going to look forward to. Not only subscribe to us on iTunes and find us on Spotify and all that stuff for the Crimson Cowl Comic Club, but also Under the Cowl, which, by the way, David, you have an announcement for those who want to join for future episodes.
Yeah, starting this week, we're pulling ahead by an hour, and we're going to start doing them 7 to 8 instead of the 8 to 9 slot that we had before. So if any of you are interested in joining us for Under the Cowl, Wednesday, 7 to 8.
So, yep, subscribe to all those channels. Subscribe to Crimson Cowl Comics on YouTube so you can see all the context when Kirby talks to the people that are, living behind him there. But yeah, check out the videos and the 150th episode that was dropped with some extra fun special features that you don't get with just the audio version. And then we have a sort of a spin-off podcast, if you will, to subscribe to over an Anchor podcast is the Under the Cowl of MS. Kirby, you want to give a quick pitch of your podcast?
Yeah, if you want to get some comic reviews you don't get on here, some that you do get on here, and you want to learn a little bit about multiple sclerosis, that's a podcast for you. And it's on at least 8 different platforms now, so you can find it on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, wherever your favorite podcasts are.
And I'm all caught up, which, I do encourage you because you've been pumping out a lot of great episodes. They are usually half-hour episodes, so very digestible when it comes to throwing it into your podcast feed. But you've been doing a bunch of different podcasts a week, as well as including the Sunday comics, the Sunday funnies, throwing that in there.
Sunday comics.
Sunday comics, okay.
We're not stepping on Greg's Sunday funnies. It's Sunday comics.
That's the official.
And they have become a weekly thing now. So I was going to do them randomly, but I like it too much. So.
But yeah, you get all that, and then you really do get an in-depth look at dealing with MS and a lot of it's a lot of eye-opening things. I've been listening to all the episodes, and it's a lot of stuff that I never know about, and
lots of internal probing.
There's some of that too. So, you give a lot of.
Yeah, we'll save the details for that podcast.
But yeah, you get a lot of great facts and details, and recipe suggestions and things like that. So you've added a lot of extra little flavor to podcasts that I can guarantee nobody else is doing a podcast like you are with Under the Cowl of MS. So subscribe to all those podcasts and all that fun stuff. Rate and review and share and like and subscribe and everything that you can do to a podcast, do it. And I think that will close out this issue. David, do you have something else? Okay, I thought you were going to throw something in there. So we'll cut that out so nobody knows that we had a little hiccup there.
Or maybe
all right.
Throw something in there. I don't know.
So this entire time, I couldn't argue with what you were saying when I couldn't even grasp what I was correctly experiencing.
I've been sitting here thirsty.
I've been the mutant master of animal magnetism.
I've been a spirit stuck in a doll's body just wanting to lick Jim's head.
I'm auditioning for the White Council of Wizardry.
What do you have for me, O great wizard of odd?
To be continued.